the 14th, that a little old short man by the name of Nathan Anderson would be addressing an august body of believers to encourage them, just like Paul encouraged all of the Gentiles. Look at somebody and say, to every Christian, Paul begins to talk, but he particularly talks now to the saints at Ephesus. But Paul wanted whoever picks up this book to understand salvation is not just to the Jews and not just to the Gentiles, but Paul wanted everybody that picked it up to understand that the best in you is going to come out when you're under pressure. Ask me how I know. Because when Paul writes this epistle, he is in prison, and in his distress he writes to bring consolation. Look at somebody and say, how am I supposed to operate under stress? Look at him and say, well, you just use that time to encourage somebody else. When was the last time in your own distress you became a witness to tell somebody you can make it? And knowing your own self, you're already in the middle of something and you yourself need encouragement. But in your distress, you pull on somebody else and tell them you're going to make it out of that. Paul was in prison. He was in chains. And he writes to the church. He says to everybody that will read. Yes, thank you, son. I like that. You already know how. Paul says to everybody that reads this epistle, I want you to know in your faithfulness, you're still going to have some down days. Paul said, I want you to know that in your holy living, you're going to have some attacks of the enemy. In all of your trying to do right. Is that Bishop Abraham back there? You're going to have some time you become criticized. In your time of distress, you're going to always come under the scrutiny of somebody trying to put you back to where you've already recovered from. But Paul said, there ain't no need to get upset. Paul said, there is no need to throw in the towel. There is no need of letting the enemy cause you to faint. Paul says, in encouraging yourself, you're going to encourage somebody else. is Renee? Excuse me. Renee, wave your hand. There were some times you would say, I'm just praying for that girl. I'm just praying for her. And she won't mind to sing this, will you? She said, I'm praying for her with a half-saved self. But I want to tell you tonight, did you see Beth? Renee, excuse me, stand up in the power of his might and declare, I want to be where you are. Come on, Zion. The time that you want to quit, you got to get to the place you have an inexhaustible expectation. I don't care where you are now. We're not going to be like that forever. Well, I need somebody in time to hit somebody on the back and say, neighbor, I want to promise you something. If you don't faint, wherever you are now, whatever is going on now, will not go on forever. Look at them and say, in fact, there's an expiration on your experience. And once you learn the lesson, you're coming out with your hands up. You're coming out more than a conqueror. You're coming out with the victory. Yes! The enemy wants to exhaust you, but rise above the pressure. Grab somebody and tell the enemy wants to exhaust you, but rise. Oh, I can't hear you. Say rise above the pressure. Let the devil know my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus and righteousness. And not just the sweetest faith. Come on, Paul. He says, I'm writing to Ephesus, but not only Ephesus, to every Christian, to settle you, to establish you in solid truth, to help you to remain faithful regardless to what you face, to see in every one of your experiences, to see him. Expectation is a belief that something will happen. Inexhaustible is the impossible. To give up on what you believe will happen. I cannot let my experiences beat me down any longer. Now I know practically through his love that surpasses mere knowledge that I won't give up, but the purpose is that I be filled to the fullness. Look at somebody and say, full.